are Shane Douglas and the Bella's new dad.
Johnny Ace.
Johnny Ace, thank you. Johnny Laurinaitis. Johnny Ace Crusher. There is a great I think I told you about this before you watched it. I was like, because we wound up watching it at the same time. I'm like, I forget my exact text, but I think I said, make sure to watch the Dynamic Dudes entrance when they try to get the fat little redneck to play Frisbee.
This is gonna be the first and last video edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast.
Yeah. But they picked the little chubster up from the front row and they put him. It's listen, I'm a former fat kid and actually current fat kid. I can say this. So they picked up Chunk and they put him like inside the ring area and they threw the Frisbee at him and it just hit off his chest. He's the least athletic thing I've ever seen in my life. And actually, a funny story is this kid grew up to be Tom Brady.
Oh, okay. That's good.
A tremendous word, right?
I thought you were going to say Jared Lorenzen. That's okay. But
the hefty lefty himself, man. No, this match wasn't very good. I think it finished with a power bomb. I don't know who power bombed who, but it was very kind of plotting. And the problem with the Dynamic Dudes is, for as over as their stupid cowabunga and surfboards and all that chicanery was, they weren't. The crowd actually hated them. And it was like the first time I can remember the crowd actually hating the good guys. So, the Dynamic Dudes lost, and you didn't see much of them going forward.
Yeah, that was actually the one thing I was going to mention about this match was the fact that the Dynamic Dudes. So I watched Bash 89, and then because I was still awake, I watched part of Halloween Havoc 89. And on both shows, the Dynamic Dudes had a tag team match, and both times they were booed by the crowd, and the heels were cheered. On this show, it was the Skyscrapers, and in Halloween Havoc 89, it was the Freebirds. That show was in Philadelphia, so I guess you could maybe expect it a little bit more. This show on the Bash was in Baltimore, but yeah, like you said, they were supposed to be like the good guy smiling babyface act or whatever, like you said, playing with the kids, and just didn't get over. The crowd was more into the monster heels. Match didn't go very long. It was more just there to feature the Skyscrapers and make them look good. And between the Battle Royal win and this match, they were really putting over the Skyscrapers pretty good.
Yeah, and for anybody not familiar with them, the Skyscrapers are pushed kind of not to the extreme, but very similar like Braun Strowman is now. Like two gigantic monster dudes. They do power moves and they beat the hell out of people. They had a couple of good matches with I believe a Legion of Doom and actually Doom. But that was later on. Let's see. After the Dynamic Dudes, this is where the card really picked up. This is the one that really got me back into it. It was the tuxedo match, watching two grown men rip the clothes off each other between Jim Cornette and Paulie Dangerously. That was a real party. That sucked. That was really bad. It was
most
funny.
Tuxedo matches are pretty bad.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to put over the guy whose review I'm reading because I just wanted to pull up the card. And he gave the tuxedo match 2 stars.
Okay. Were there moves in that match that I just didn't remember? Or
Cornette started to rally powder spot. No, there was no.
Was it psychology? Was there psychology involved that I wasn't aware of either?
Yeah, they're really good storytelling of Paulie's underwear. It was a real effing party. Okay, next. Speaking of, okay, here we go. The next match was the Steiners versus the Varsity Club. It was the Varsity Club. For those who don't know, was at this point. I mean, who was in there? You had Mike Rotunda, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and I believe Kevin Sullivan. And I'm forgetting somebody.
Mike Rotunda, Kevin Sullivan, Steve Williams. I think Rick Steiner was in it, right? But by this point, he was out, of course, since he was facing them here on this show.
Right. So it was I don't really. It was it was a very fast. I mean, it only went like four. Yeah, it was about 4 or 5 minutes. I don't know what the point of it was. I mean, there were no titles involved or anything along those lines, but I think it was just the kind of Rick Steiner brought his brother Scott in once he got kicked out of them because he was kind of dogged and he's Dogface Gremlin. He was kind of the comic relief of the Varsity Club, if you will, because they were all like they were kind of like the Bullet Club, like before the Bullet Club, because they were all like legit shooters and they were they were all like legit wrestlers, but I should say, like, Dr. Death wrestled at Oklahoma. I think
Rotunda was Syracuse, I think. Rotunda was Syracuse, right?
Steiner's were at Michigan. So the idea behind it is they were all like legitimate, real college wrestlers. And, they turned on Rick Steiner, and Rick Steiner brought his brother, Scott Steiner, in and feuded with him. And, they got the win in this one. So, I mean, it wasn't much, but it was continuing the story. Oh, and Missy Hyatt was with the Steiner brothers. So, that night got awfully messy.
Oh, yeah. But the only thing is, so this match, I like it. It's pretty much all action from start to finish, just because it's the tornado tag rules and things like that. The only there's nothing bad about the match itself. It's just that when you look at this is where the card really starts to pick up, I think, from here forward. This match criminally short, probably at only like 4 or 5 minutes. But then you look at the tuxedo match, got like 6 or 7 minutes. That's the only thing that really is confusing a little bit about this part of the card. Like they gave that 6 or 7 minutes, but yet they only gave the Steiners and the Varsity Club like 4 or 5 minutes, just beat the heck out of each other. And there was a lot of cool stuff in that short period of time, but I don't know why the tuxedo match got more time than this. But it was, I think it was the pay-per-view debut of the Steiner brothers as a team. So I think it's notable for all the reasons you mentioned about Scott coming in and everything like that. So.
Speaking of criminally short matches, the next match on the card, which kind of kicked off the Big Four, if you will, it was the NWA World TV Title champion Sting against the Great Muta. This match was, people say Flair versus Steamboat is ahead of its time, and I'm not putting this on par with Flair versus Steamboat because it wasn't anywhere near as long, but the actual moves in the match were, Sting was diving over the top rope. Muta was, doing suicide dives to the outside and big high spots off the top turnbuckle. This match was fantastic, and it went less than 10 minutes. I think it was an 8-minute match, 8.5 minutes. This was. They had the ref bump spot. Not the ref bump spot at the end, but they had it was what do they call that? The old dusty finish. Is that true?
Well, I think it was more of it was a double pin spot, right? I think was it Sting gave Muta a suplex or vice versa? I can't remember.
There was the missed spot. He went to Muta went to miss Sting, missed, hit. Nice. Sting avoided it. Hit the ref, and then Sting in with a bridging back suplex, 1, 2, 3. However, it was kind of it was an awkward finish where I think one referee said Sting's shoulders are down, the other referee said Muta's hands are down, shoulders are down. They gave the belt to Muta, and then Eddie Gilbert, who was in Sting's corner, ran and took the belt back. So you really didn't. There was no finality to this match whatsoever but that was kind of good. It made you turn into the next Great American. The next Clash of the Champions, or I guess it would have been the Power Hour at that point on TBS, on the Superstation.
Yeah, I think, so like you said, I think the match, again, so it was a little bit shorter than you'd like. I think this is where the greatness of the pay-per-view really gets its, where it starts from, I guess, in terms of people's opinions of it, is this match was the start of it. Muta was a guy, again, I've only seen him mostly from his WCW stuff from this era, but he seemed like he was a little pretty ahead of his time with some of the things that he was doing back then. And yeah, they did the draw or whatever finish, which I think they say later on, either during the Flair match or right after the Flair match, that the TV title was held up as a result of the finish here, and then it leads into other things like you said on the next shows, and then the tag match. So what were we talking about? I was going to ask.
I'm going to have to learn to spackle the 3 holes I just punched in my wall. How's that?
Oh, okay. That could be like on a
a how-to video.
Yeah, one of those.
Well, I'm going to do it posthumously.
Posthumously? Is that what you mean?
No, like after my humus.
So what I was going to say before we got cut off was if we could give our star ratings, not that anybody really cares, but I think it's interesting just for you and I, of these last 4 matches. So what would you give Sting and Muta for the TV title? What would you give that ratings-wise?
I would go 3 3/4.
Okay, I was going to go 4 even. I really liked that match a lot.
I loved it, but I want it to be longer.
Yeah.
That's also what I've heard that before.
People say that a lot. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I get that. Okay.
Maybe we should just. So
all right, next up, At this point, NWA US Heavyweight Champion Lex Luger was a total douche, right? Nobody really liked Luger. He had the physique. I mean, if anything you read or watch, you go back on it, Luger was the guy that nobody liked in the locker room. He didn't care about the business. He's kind of like a modern day like Lesnar almost, where like doing it for the paycheck, and that's it. Lesnar's better in the ring than Luger was. He had a great look, great physique, cut okay promos, but he wasn't very good in the ring. He was a little stiff. He got better, But to me, this is one of the best Lex Luger matches I think ever. And a lot of that's a credit to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Before the match, it was supposed to be a no disqualification match. I'm not sure why leading up to that, so forgive me. Any idea why it was supposed to be no DQ?
I could probably check really quick. I'm sure it had something to do with Luger probably doing something beforehand to cause it to get that way. I'm quickly trying to pull up a history here if I can, but you can keep going.
All right, so Luger cut a promo with Gordon Solie, who is amazing, by the way. I love Gordon Solie. He was doing the backstage announcing, and Luger cut a promo saying he's the champ. He's not going to wrestle unless the no DQ stipulation gets taken off. So they go to the ring. Luger says he's like, I'm not going to wrestle. Finally, NWA officials hop in the ring, talk to Ricky Dragon Steamboat. Steamboat's like, listen, I don't care. So fine, we go back to a normal match, which I guess would kind of suck in this day and age. Like if it's, advertised as a no DQ match, then all of a sudden you get there, it's like, oh no, it's just a normal match now. But I'm sure there was probably a reason for it.
The only back history that I have on it here was after Wrestle War, which was when Steamboat lost the championship to Flair. Luger had beaten Michael Hayes at a live event to win the U.S. title. Luger was talking about being held back. Looks like Ricky Steamboat, Terry. He basically attacked Steamboat after a match and turned heel, and then claimed that he was tired of making the fans happy and wanted to prove himself as being better than Steamboat. And then they announced that the title match would take place at the Bash. So it doesn't specifically state why it was no DQ at the time, unless it was maybe just a vehicle to try to
for the finish.
For the finish and to set up the whole time, like you said, to make people hate Luger even more. They were anticipating a no DQ match, and he kind of came out and was like, well, I'm not going to defend this title if it's no DQ. You're only going to get it if it's a regular match. And then, spoiler alert, obviously it ends in a DQ at the end anyway.
So that makes sense. And, as the match goes on, the finish definitely plays into it. But I thought this match was fantastic. I mean, Steamboat came out, he came out firing. He beat the hell out of Luger, and then he bumped like crazy for him. There were a couple of really good spots on the outside. And Luger, he was getting better at this point. Like he was definitely working on his selling, but Steamboat was, 1988, 1989 Steamboat's probably got to be in like the top 10, top 15 of all time. Just performances, wrestlers, X, Y, and Z. The dude was a master of psychology, great high flyer, great technical wrestler, told a great story. And Luger, as a guy that was a power guy that had the look, didn't have the very comparable to the Ultimate Warrior, needed somebody to tell the story for him, and that's where Steamboat came in. So the match was just off the charts awesome, and the finish saw Luger bring a steel chair into the ring in an attempt to use it. Steamboat actually got it, and he was so pissed that he beat the hell out of Luger with a chair, and then he chased him all the way out. So had it been a normal match, had it been no DQ match, Luger probably would have lost the title. But being that it was, it was kind of Luger's plan all along. It was good heel work, and the DQ finish was smart, I should say.
Yeah, I think so too. The crowd was super into it the whole time. Even though Luger had turned, there was still a portion of the fans that were cheering him. But Steamboat was also a very popular guy just from that area, and he was coming off all those matches with Flair that were really, really good. So the heat for it was really good. The action was really good. Like Steamboat, as you said, got a really good match out of Luger. Luger seemed to be able to keep up with him, pace-wise in the match. I think from a rating perspective, I would probably give this one 4.25. I liked it a little bit better than the Sting Muta match, and it was not that much longer. It was only like maybe a minute or two longer, but I think I liked the story in this match a lot. So I'd probably go 4.25.
I'm gonna go 4. I'm a staunch reviewer today, Joe. I could feel it. I'm a tightwad, as some would say. 2 matches left. Do you want to go heavyweight title? Or do you want to go War Games?
Let's go War Games.
War Games, the match beyond. The Fabulous Freebirds and the Samoan SWAT team against the Midnight Express, the Road Warriors, and Steve Dr. Death Williams, who I guess